That was the last
dick.
That was the last dick. Sean, that was the last panel. You missed it. You were here for the
Did he actually talk about the spotted dick?
Write a song with Bella Morte. Sean, you're like the whole thing. They were
Spotted dick?
You're live. You missed it.
Or spot a dick?
We're live.
Oh shit, we're live.
Pat for the long lost, everyone.
I hate Goth. All Goths suck. I hate this. Oh shit, we're live?
Yeah.
What's up, all 5 people on the internet?
Oh wait, let me get my phone. Wait, where's my stuff?
So this is it?
This is it.
There are not nearly enough tattoos.
I need more tattoos.
I'll give you a tattoo.
You should get like Cat 3 and Cat 4 and just keeping.
I'll get you a tattoo.
What, are you wearing glasses?
You're an intellectual.
Well, I thought because it's not a modern, like what's his name, James Lipton?
Yeah.
You know, so
It looks smart. That's smart. It's a good way to trick everyone.
I'm so confused. There's latency. I don't know if I'm watching the live video. No, this is like Inception, except I'm super dumb.
Alright, about to play
Is this the video?
Peaky Blinders, right? Best show ever.
It is.
Peaky Blinders is like the best.
Welcome to the panel where Sean just talks about things he likes.
It wasn't bad when I saw it, but
It sucks now, though. I disagree. Oh, Walking
Check.
Dead sucks.
you are
balls
so
now.
wrong. It's so good.
It goes nowhere. It
doesn't
nothing.
even like.
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh my god. Yeah! I like that too, but
Don't backtrack. You already gave your answer.
Did you see that is?
It's fucking great. Hey, listen, I have the comic books. I'm totally invested monetarily into this
I
thing.
bought a snack. This is just for me. Did you see the one with Ash in the sperm bank?
No!
Oh my god, that was awesome.
Where's? Oh, there you are. Wait, follow your name tag, Mr.
Right here.
Oh,
He squeezed in between us.
I'm the is and what the hell is God.
Yeah.
I am the is and what shall be and what
I thought I was sitting next to
once
Andy
was.
Dean. It's in my rider.
Oh.
I thought you were going to be
Can't tell
complaining
us
about the
apart.
smell.
I think I shared it. I think I
So
got
are these
it.
If anybody wants some Irish soda bread, you know, it's festive. Wow.
It
It
is.
was like right at
Yes! Oh shit, I forgot about that.
What is God, you know? I knew it. If you put on Irish soda bread, you attract animals.
You better stay. You better stay. Oh my
Originally,
God.
we were going to
God
wear our
bless you.
onesies to the panel. We forgot to tell them that well, I actually forgot we were supposed to do it, so sorry.
What?
Yeah, I have a bat onesie, and Andy Dean has a dragon onesie. We're going to be wearing our onesies tonight, where all of us are mobbing it up, so come see us. This is like really loud, and there's feedback. Andy? Sound man!
What? Mine's not even on.
I'm not the culprit.
Is it track?
Talk.
I'm trying to be a
Walk.
DJ.
Check.
All right,
It's
lower.
got like some... I'm just going to yell. This is...
Are you slower than Master?
Yeah, can we just like bring one of the two?
Yeah.
Hers is right here. Okay.
That's her.
All right.
That's the mic level.
Hello.
Here,
That sounds
here.
better.
That's better. Okay, great.
Now we can check that one.
Mental midgets.
Hey, if it's gonna be like this the entire time.
I'm hungover right now.
I'm surprised
I'm
it's
gonna be
going
abusive. Just
this
wait.
good.
Do you actually need a mic? Here's my more question.
Can you all hear us?
Yeah, I don't know the microphone.
Like, I'm gonna be more obnoxious.
Oh, yes, sorry. That?
It looks like they killed her.
Where's Anka?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
What the hell?
You just asked for me.
I thought she could watch you.
You only paid for one.
We
of us.
watched her witch thing.
I'll text her.
You know what? Forget her. You know what? Forget your wife. Here. Merry Christmas. We've had in our apartment forever. It's your Christmas.
It's almost like you invited everyone to an awkward dinner.
That's the name of
That's
the
for me
brother
and
of
Mom.
that awkward dinner.
I hope it's a onesie.
Cool if it was, but it's not.
Aww.
You don't even know what it is.
How did you know I'm cold?
Wait.
Careful your soda. Yeah, boy. Nice. That's awesome.
Show it for the camera.
Is it?
I'm gonna stay warm and profess my love for this movie.
Max Shrek, definitely.
I'm
Goth.
sorry he didn't get you gifts the other people in the class.
That's not true. Got herpes.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
I gave him a
I
I gave a DJ accessory. Not quite as cool as a.
Oh yeah,
Nosferatu blanket.
they slaughtered a pixie back here.
I know, it's beautiful.
I can't.
Like, oh.
Andy gave me his new record.
All right, should we start this thing? Because we
Yeah.
have
What
early,
time
but
is
should we
it?
start it?
Yeah.
Why not? It's 5:11, so we
Yeah,
have to
let's
wait
go for
4
it.
minutes. Or should we wait 4 minutes?
Let's
4
go
minutes.
4 minutes in silence.
I'm counting this, by the way. I'm totally counting this.
Let's just start and get this over with.
No, the goth community is super violent,
They have Facebook Live though. They can watch this from the
but
toilet.
they're not. They're walking here. They just ate a hot dog and they're
Okay, you are getting way too deep into this panel right now.
And I'm
It'll
gonna
be
get,
fine.
I want to go deeper.
Balls
Finally, she would have missed everything.
That's
And she would have killed all of
She
us.
would have missed you rambling for another 4
How about the
minutes.
next person that walks in, we clap?
I like it. Or everyone turn around and just stare at them. I like it.
Or even better, you act like, what the fuck? Like, why weren't you
like
here?
here, we're waiting for you to start.
Hopefully it's my wife.
And we can do the thing where we like say something like, "Hey, thanks all you guys for coming. I hope you enjoyed it." And everybody stand up and walk out.
Sometime tonight, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can totally wear your onesie. Like, I'm gonna be like, no, Jane, you can't wear your onesie. That's my thing. You can't do it.
Did you have a onesie? I'm so jealous.
I have a koozie.
Alright.
See you later. You could be the butt of the horse.
That's an intro of mine for song. It's a top
You want to
secret.
be the middle of the.
Good job.
I didn't even understand a word you guys said.
It's just you walked through so perfectly.
I want to get the award for the most like dysfunctional panel of all.
You're on it.
You're on the
I want
top.
that award. I just want to got this on the top of the award. What's going on?
That's not what a toozy is, Andy. Please stop.
Answer the question.
What's a doozy?
That is not a toozy.
Man, it's a doozy.
Oh, no, you do it. A doozy is what you do in a doozy.
Listen, what you guys are doing under the table, they don't
More
need to know.
booze. What's booze for me?
I don't know, doozy.
I really underestimated the booze content.
I think doozy and the toozy is your new rap single. You gotta drop that.
At the end of the table, there's the black king.
Gravity doesn't
Hey, can we take a picture later where I'm holding it up?
Congrats, Golden Green. Sorry.
I mean, you're way back.
You're watching me, but you're watching me.
Yeah. You can see the guy.
How can I say that? You're watching me. Watching. Stupid. No, dude, don't put my order. What's wrong with you?
2 minutes.
We actually haven't gotten to meet yet. Hi. Never met them.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
And that is the Annabelle.
Annabelle, do the thing with the wings. Do it.
Do these people next.
And say you're Batman. Say you're Batman.
Oh, that's so
I'm not
cool.
excited yet.
Oh,
I don't know if it's
She's not excited. That's all you guys. Show her the gift.
more letters up.
how come?
Show her the
Sean
gift.
London, I got us a gift.
Say the last.
Oh, okay.
And it's not herpes.
They got us a gift. The test came back negative.
I'll get you next time.
Yeah, Fritz is gonna destroy you.
Wait, the blanket or us?
Oh, you guys. You're so dedicated. You guys are more dedicated.
Fuck yeah. Alright, we have 1 minute and it get all dark and serious. Like 1 minute and it get really dark and really sad and depressing in here. Like someone turn those lights off because I'm gonna get really goth.
Who brought the tie
Someone
back?
turn that shit. Should have kept the camera right here.
Oh, shut up!
Oh shit.
It's
Alright.
5:15.
Let us begin.
Do you want to do the lights again?
Thanks. Or the afternoon.
It was so much fun yesterday.
Alright, shh.
Forget everything you
Please
know
find your
about
seat. We're
panels.
about to begin. Alright, are we ready?
No.
All right, so this is our first TED Talk, and our discussion is what the hell is goth, and I don't think there's really one correct answer, so I guess we can just leave. There's no one answer, there's no one authority, so basically it's a no.
Number one authority right here. Stole your thunder. That's what you get for inviting me. Yeah, that's on you.
Matt, so it's a big topic, obviously, and it's very for a very small scene, but it spans many genres. You know, it's not just goth, but there's cyber goth, and there's different kinds of goth. Everything's goth, metal goth, this goth. Kitten goth. So we're saying, what is the definitive term of goth? What is really goth? We're just going to try to figure out in a very fun way, I guess, right? Yeah.
Reasonably fun.
Right, so
don't expect a lot.
So Monty made some cue cards for me, which is awesome. They're black. Black cue cards. Black.
So does that make them goth?
Yeah, well, that's a question, though, right?
We'll know within an hour.
All right. So first card. What the hell is goth? Discussion at Dark Side of Con 2. First card, so we're starting.
That's a good place to start.
This is the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. Which The Walking Dead sometimes we do, because sometimes they start in the
All right,
middle
we're
of
not
the story.
going back.
But fine, whatever. All right. So I guess first introductions are in order to wonder why we're all actually here and why we're actually speaking. You know, so I guess, you know, what makes us experts. I know I'm
Go down the line.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with ladies first. So Patrick. So ladies first, Angel.
Yeah.
So the question is, what sucked you into the goth culture?
Introduce everybody first. Nobody
Allow
knows.
me to
Well, introduce.
myself.
Well, we'll do the introductions that way, right? Should I say, what's your name? Your name?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You have your way, I have my way. See, all goth drunk
not real.
and with
It's
a
not
bun.
real.
You see that? All right, so yeah. So before I was unrudely interrupted. So what is your name?
Yeah, I am Angel Metro. I am the owner of Goth Night in Charlottesville. It's a weekly goth alternative club night we do every Tuesday. I'm the former vocalist for Guild of Morn 2, which we did fairy tale themed gothic rock.
And this is?
What am I supposed to say?
I know, right?
Chris Mack. I wear many hats between being a producer, I produce events, I produce music, I'm a DJ. So I guess you could say I attack it from all angles between running an event and I book DJs, or I'm a DJ and I'm also booked by other event producers, and I work with bands that are also fulfilling all the things that we do in these events. I'll plug later. Anyway, we have the Rain Within playing in April. But anyway, I'm happy to be on this panel. I'm part of a few panels here. We was part of the DJ and event producers panel, and then after this we have
Which
the
was
fetish.
disgusting.
And then, well, even more discussing, the Fetish 101 panel right after this. In Salon E for erection. Anyway.
Sounds good for
Little tips. But I will pass this back to the rest of my panel mates here.
And what is your name?
My name's Andy, and I have been in Bella Morte for a couple of decades now. So I've been doing this since the late 90s, and more recently, my project, The Rain Within, has taken off, and I've been doing a lot with that. So I run 2 bands. I'm a horror author, and that's my jam.
Good jam. Great album, by the way. No, it's awesome. It really is really good. I like it a lot.
My name is Patrick. I'm the guitarist for the Long Lost. We play bluegrass, jazz, death metal. It's gothy.
Coffee.
It's gothic. It is. You just gotta I'm in a band with my wife Anka, and we've been playing for about 5 years. And yeah. I haven't played music for over 12 hours. Last night was rough.
My name is Sean Templer. I do a party called The Red Party.
Hell yeah.
Our 11th year now doing this party. It's freaking awesome. It's a labor of love. I really do love it a lot. And yeah, DJ. We just started becoming band bookers for the last 2 hookers. Band hookers for the last 2 years. So we've been booking a lot of really great bands, and that's been like a really good trial by fire thing too, because bands suck.
Especially those long lost you guys have play there every
You
time.
should see their rider. It is just
No, I love
Well, something must have been right. They booked us 3 times.
And got your towel. Or towel blanket, or
Yes, she
what
did.
you call it. All right, so I guess the first question here, so we're going to go to kind of a roundabout way to get to a topic, I guess. And I guess the first question is, like, how old were you, and like, what really sucked you into the scene? Starting with you, we go back this way, I guess. Like, what drew you into it? I mean, the thing about the whole goth scene is it's not really widely promoted mainstream. You have to really look for it, or find it. It's a weird thing, you know. You're not going to be posting it, you know, in like Rolling Stone magazine or MTV or you know, it's not really marketable or marketed. So like, how did you find it, and like, what drew you to it? What was it?
Yeah, I think for me, as a kid, I was a really big horror buff, sci-fi, anything dark. I mean, of course, Halloween was my favorite holiday, and just anything spooky, dark, terrible, like right up my alley. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot these existed. Yeah, and so I was a really big horror buff, and even as I started getting into music when I got a little bit older, I really, you know, my first musical love was early Elvis, rockabilly, but more so the like ballads, the sad, bluesy, like very raw, emotive. That word? Yeah, you're the moderator. Let me know. Okay, so I'm going to use that one. Yeah, that kind of music, and I didn't start getting into gothic rock, I don't think, until, or at least actual gothic rock until, I think it was maybe 15 or so. I remember coming across the, this is going to sound really weird saying, I got into gothic rock. I got into the legendary Pink Dots, and very experimental, and I just kind of fell in love with that darker sound. And then, of course, going down that rabbit hole led me to the staples, you know, Susie and Banshee, and, you know, Bauhaus, and I really fell in love with like Camouflage, if you guys have ever heard of them, the Bolshoi, and Sisters, of course. And yeah, I think my definitive moment as a goth was freshman year. I was at my high school, and I remember I came in late season, and I sat down in class, and there was these 2 guys there, and I heard them whispering about me, you know, talking about me, and they're like, hey, who's that new goth girl? And I was like, oh shit, are they talking about me? Well, okay then, I guess I better own up to this. And yeah, that's kind of where my path started with that.
Cool. Awesome.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, I
You
don't.
were talking about the early rockabilly stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
What defines a goth rock as opposed to like some of the psychobilly stuff, like the necromantics or the horror pops?
Yeah.
The horror pops are a little poppy, but
Right.
I mean, what
If I'm being completely crude, just like the first thing that pops in my head, upright bass and tempo. Those are like the difference right there between psychobilly and gothic rock. And honestly, some of them cross over for me.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you listen to like old death rock albums, you're like, this is psychobilly.
Oh, not
like
to mention
whatever.
the Phantom Chords with Dave Downing from The Damned. They're
Yeah.
they're freaking awesome.
So
And that's the Phantom Chords.
I feel like when you get into like death rock, early, you know, gothic rock, like when gothic rock was being defined out of post-punk, rockabilly, psychobilly, all that stuff, it was all kind of a cesspool. So there are a lot of bands that kind of they just kind of mix in. You can call either or, but again, that's what
That's
I
why
love.
old people like to just call it rock and roll.
Right, rock and roll.
But rock and roll in itself is also a tag. You gotta call something something. You can't call a dog a cat. That's just madness.
You could.
You could, but yeah, this is madness.
Tell me how to live my life.
I guess they all do stem from rock. I would say my introduction is I had a lot of friends who were punks growing up, you know, the straight up mohawks. I mean, Positive Action, Direct Action, and smashing windows if they didn't like something. So I would say I came in through all like the aggressive gothic rock bands, and I would get into like the early Damned. I would say there's a lot of crossover too because, you know, I'm a big Cramps fan. I wouldn't say they're necessarily a dance band, but then my father, who was really, you know, in the 50s and would show me the Johnny Burnett Trio, and I'm like, oh, this is real rockabilly. So all you have to make it psychobilly is to just make it darker, maybe dress up a bit. Then you have stuff, like I said, like the Misfits. So you have stuff that's punk, You know, I'm sure Andy and Sean, everyone can agree with me that
Yeah,
some of the lines are blurred. So if somebody says to you, well, that's not Gothic rock, that might be more industrial, or that might be more death rock. I'm like, okay, well, is it dark? Do you like it? You gonna put Alien Sex Fiend in how many categories in your iTunes library? You know, but if it's something that you like, I mean, I just kept adding to the list. I mean, probably 14 or 15. I had a lot of friends who were older than me. They would say to me, oh, Bowie. I'm like, well, this Bowie sounds kind of folky. No, the later Bowie. What, the one where he's got red hair? No, wait, how about this one where, so it's like it's really hard unless you get the right album. So I would say friends are always very instrumental. You know, one of the best compliments to me as a DJ when people come up is like, what is this? I never heard it. And don't get a smarmy attitude if somebody asks you, you know, what is this damn song that you're playing? And like, tell them you may have just started a kid on the right path. You know, so. Music is definitely a drug. Music is definitely a drug.
Like Tide Pod.
I'll get the microphone there. So
I guess the same to you is what sucked you into the goth culture, and how old were you at the time?
I think I was in my late teens, early 20s, but I grew up a metalhead, and that was what was around me at the time, and especially like doom metal and the slower, grindy, depressing stuff. Yeah, and I there was a club in town that's no longer there, and I knew the owners, so I played there all the time with my metal bands, and she would always let me go through their submissions, like bands that wanted to play there, take what I wanted, and there was this band called the Immortal Chorus, and these guys were out of, I want to say Tennessee, and they never really did much. I fell in love with this cassette tape though, like in love with it, just like crazy about it. And I'd never heard anything like it. I had no idea what it was. And I played it for a friend of mine that's like, you gotta hear this. And he's like, oh dude, that's a goth rock. That's, you know, this is very like Bauhaus influenced. And I'm like,
what's a Bauhaus?
yeah, pretty much. And he got me like a compilation. He bought me a compilation, and I remember it had like, probably my favorite goth rock band is Specimen, and it had those guys on it. And from there, I just started exploring. And when I'm one of those people, when I find something, I'm just like ravenous. Like, you know, like just going to the record store, like his junk. Penis. So, you know, just like digging through record stores, every town, you know, started a goth rock band with my buddy Gopal within like a year or two of that. Like, you know, as I was just totally into it, and I never looked back. I fell in love with the scene. I fell in love with the people. One really quick funny story. We got into it in a small town, and there was nobody there doing it at the time. Like, we started a goth night there and stuff like that, and there was nobody. And so we had heard of, you guys know Lycia. Well, Lycia was playing an hour away in Richmond, Virginia. And we were like, oh my God, Lycia is coming to Richmond, Virginia. Oh my God, how do we get advance tickets so we can make sure we get in? And so we're hunting, like trying to figure out, and there's nowhere to get advance tickets. We're like, oh my God, we have to get there early. So we get to the club hours early and get our tickets, and then we go goof around Richmond, but we're psyched. We got tickets. And we get back, and there's like 6 people there. And it was eye-opening for us. We're like, oh, nobody likes this. Like, oh, okay, so we're about to take our musical path down this path that nobody wants to walk or look at. But so it was really funny because we thought it was huge. In our brains, these were enormous bands we were listening to. But you know, over time, it just that also became the beauty of the whole thing. That there's this, you know, this is awesome. Like, you know, we filled a hotel with people from the East Coast, and it's beautiful. And this is where I found kind of my family, more than I ever found in the metal scene, the punk scenes. But this is where I found my family, so, except for, don't touch me. That's it.
Restraining orders.
How do the microphones get over there? You two are...
Between those two
I have a
guys,
box
are
of
you
them
kidding? You
over
never
here.
had a chance.
They just don't want you to speak, Sean.
Are you supposed to go or me?
You!
Oh, sorry.
I'm just a moderator.
Aggressive moderator.
I'm just trying to keep everyone on their toes.
Really abusive, honestly.
What age? It was probably in junior high. Like, there was a certain point, I can't remember the year. I was a kid where I was just drawn
like to dressing up. Like from loving horror movies. So vampire movies, everything. I started dressing in like black all the time, but I had no idea. I didn't have, there was no internet, so I had no idea what the hell was out there. I was, dressed as I usually do one day I was on the short buses I took to school every day. And that's right. And some girl said to me, "Oh, you look like a goth." I'm like, I had no idea what that meant. Like, and I thought, isn't that like those barbarians from history? And she's like, no. She's like, you're like, like Lydia from Beetlejuice. And I was just like,
I'm a girl.
So, when I saw Lydia from Beetlejuice, and I was maybe, 12 or something, and I was like, oh my God, I realized sort of that it was a thing. It wasn't just like me and my own fashion sense or whatever. But I got into the music when I found out it was connected with this, the fashion and but it wasn't through the internet. It ended up like finding magazines and it was when the Wiz had the raps in magazines, and I found propaganda and all these.
I have a story about that
All
magazine.
well, it's my turn. Here, you want a blanket? Cry your big tears on? I'm sorry. I love
And
you.
you call me vicious, right?
I know. So. But, it was like one of those things that felt like a short amount of time where I was discovering that there was this world and immediately I felt connected to it. Like, this is cool. But there was no one. I didn't know a single person. There wasn't anyone in my school. There were only metalheads and punks, and I sort of ended up in that route. Like I got into, while at the same time I'm getting into the Sisters of Mercy, and like I got that gothic rock compilation with all like Rosetta Stone and all these bands to listen to, and then at the same time I was getting into Metallica, like Master of Puppets, and then later on I got into Minor Threat and all these other bands. But when I did punks bands for years, and it wasn't until Anka, who was way more goth than me, said to me one day, "Why don't you write a song that I like?" You totally did. You're like, "Why don't you try to write something?" I was like, well, all right. And I sat down and tried to write in that vein, and that's when the long lost began. But it reestablished me looking more into the stuff I used to like and the bands that I used to love. And the internet, it makes it so much easier now to dig up the stuff you used to love or bands you haven't listened to in years and stuff. It was so hard to find albums back then. They were obscure goth bands and shit like that. You couldn't find anything,
Highest Oaks Long Island. That was a shit.
Yeah. That was closed by the time. We were a little older than that. But yeah. Did I answer it?
You answered it. You did nail it.
You nailed it like 10 minutes ago. YOLO.
All right, so that card's down. There we go. What? Oh,
You didn't answer.
you didn't care? Should I use the microphone?
Yeah.
No, it is. Sure. What do you think? Just like, wait, this is the noise.
Sean Templar, what sucked you into the goth culture, and how old were you?
It's not even working. You guys were.
Totally heated it up.
Wow. So yeah, I got in pretty early. I think I was like around 13, maybe 14 years old. And then I think what it was initially, even before I heard the music, I think I saw, there's a magazine called Smash Hits or Star Hits magazine. This is a long time ago. And this magazine would have new wave, Kasha Gugu and Duran Duran, but it also would have Robert Smith from The Cure and Susie and the Banshees. I remember seeing a picture of Susie for the first time and thinking, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Look at what she's wearing. Look at the hair. Look at the fishnets. Oh, it was amazing. I'm like, people are looking like this. And I think it was in Smithtown Island. I think the first album I ever got was at Tri-County Flea Market. On cassette, I think it was Head on the Door by The Cure was the first, I guess, quote-unquote, proper goth album I ever got. I remember going into the car with my mom and putting it into the cassette player and listening to it, being blown away, and that was it for me. And I think it was basically the image first for me, and the music. I was already into the horror films. I was already done. You know, I was already a geek, and that just like solidified everything and made everything to this day now just like I was on for a long.
You know, the first time I heard Susie was in the Batman Returns.
Oh my
No way. Fun fact, you know, Tim Burton only got her to do that song because he said he was going to direct her video. And he didn't. And the video he was supposed to direct, he did the stills for and mock-up for. It became Nightmare Before Christmas. So the Susie video for Face to Face is now Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's fun. It only dawned on me recently that parts of the soundtrack of the song. Like if you listen to this face to face, like that's actually just a riff on the music from the rest of the movie.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nah.
Let's go watch it right now.
All right, so I guess the next question. I guess the next question is not PG. All right, next question I guess is a simple one. Is do you still consider yourself a goth? Like after all the time and everything you know, and all the different genres and everything you're into, all the horror, I mean everything, do you still consider yourself a goth? I mean people say
Absolutely
you're a goth.
not. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, totally. It's hard because when you talk to people about what they think goth is, it's so fluid. So maybe what someone someone else who identifies as goth, I may not necessarily find that in myself. But I think it's kind of a blanket term because there's so many different aspects to it, and I'm never one to be like, oh, it's a Nosferatu blanket term.
I guess smallpox. Like in your land.
But I'm never one to knock someone's self-identification. So if I don't necessarily consider something goth, I don't say, well, you're wrong, unless I'm on this panel with these guys. These guys are definitely wrong. I have no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, I consider myself a goth. I mean, I don't really have a choice at this point. My whole life revolves around that world. Where everything I do musically, professional. Yeah, I'm held hostage by goth. Yeah, that's my next album.
That sounds like it could be your own lab.
Yeah, right. With a very dramatic and a cat too.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you say no.
Being that I consider goth such a broad thing, yeah, I'm a goth. I guess I might be a cyber goth. I don't know, what did Voltaire's book say?
I need that reference out right now.
Yes, he has a book called What is God? I think I'm on page 13. Anyway, page 6. Anyway, yeah, and there'll continue to always be new versions of goth. I just talked to Andy yesterday about how, we had new wave, now we have retro wave, then we have synth wave. So when are we going to have, I guess goth is retro by nature. So we're going to have...
It's cold wave. That's
cold,
literally
cold goth?
Cold wave.
Goth wave?
Cold cuts?
I'm literally saying
Bat wave.
over and over.
Bat wave. Bat wave. I'm calling it right now. I'm calling it Bat wave.
I know.
I love that.
I know.
Bat wave.
I know. Since everything comes in a 20-year cycle, Jed is waiting for 2023 so that Vampire Freaks can have their early 00s. Got to come up with a name for it, though. But yeah, there's so much goth. I am definitely goth. I think I might lean to maybe some more of the rock or the heavier stuff. But we'll see how many remixes I can get out of Andy. Ring Within remixes of Bella Morte and vice versa to blur the lines even further. I like when there are hybrids personally. I enjoy all versions of goth. Except for Sean. Sean only likes.
That's not true. Kind of, but not really yet.
Kind of, not really true. Yeah.
And I guess the question goes to you now.
It's funny, I don't really care, but, I don't care if, that whole thing where people are that's not goth, it's so dumb.
That's a whole panel, though.
I know, but it's people get so territorial and upset, and I'm just man, just have fun. You are going to die, and you're going to have had that argument. It doesn't matter. I'm YOLO. It's funny, but being in Bella Morte, we started doing it in 1996, and we always thought we were a goth band, but then you have people they're posers. They're not God. They're like this. We're like, all right, you know, like that's fine.
I don't care what Patrick says.
Yeah. but I love the community. Like I absolutely love the goth scene. I love the events and all that. So I guess the thing is like, I guess I'm a goth, but it doesn't make up the whole of me, and it doesn't define me, but it's so much freaking fun. So I just think people need to not be uptight about it. Let it expand. Don't be too like locked into like
linear.
Yeah, don't make it like so like if it's not the Sisters of Mercy, it doesn't count. It's like nah.
It doesn't, by the way.
Excuse me. I think Rosetta Stone proved that to be wrong.
Oh, Rosetta Stone is Sisters of Mercy.
What better?
All these like young kids doing all this like I just went on tour with Mr. Kitty, and you can decide he's goth or not. I think he's absolutely goth. The dude's on stage in a Nike tracksuit with a gold vampire fang grill. Talk to that dude for a little bit. That's one of the most goth dudes I know, and he's wonderful, and he's innovative, and he's an incredible musician. So,
you mean Witch House?
Yeah.
Is that another goth permutation?
I don't think he's like redefining the genre, but he's one of many artists. It's amazing. He's one of those artists that's allowing us to spread our wings, allowing us to become more than we are, and inviting new styles in, which I think we need, or we will die.
I think we should rename you Pop. So like punk goth. Coming up with new genres. That's what we do.
We do have more punk already. That's true.
I don't know. I've always been sort of not fitted with any group. Like just, I didn't have a lot of friends going to school and all that kind of stuff. So to think I had a community to identify with, or just a group of people to identify with, was always odd to me. I never felt that. I mean, especially as a young person when you're just looking for a place to belong. But now I'm just me. I like the things I like, and I'm into the things I'm into. And if that puts me into a category, that's fine. I'm happy if that works for some people. But I won't have arguments over what is or what isn't goth. You just understand that like certain things. I understand people's need to categorize things. It just makes things simple. Yeah. Otherwise, you would have your iTunes would just be songs. Like, how the hell are you supposed to know? Like, why do we even have band names?
There'd be no sections in the record store.
Yeah, no sections in the record store. I understand that, but in some bands, I'm more interested in the bands that sort of redefine or they use bits of everything, because there's a lot of bands that just adhere to the formula of whatever they do, and bands that do different things and make them hard to categorize are great. You know what I mean? That's like any genre. There's plenty of punk bands that are. It always drove me nuts in the punk scene. I don't know how many punk bands are the big mohawked, oi oi, like fuck the system type of things. It's not like that's not great, but do something new. What's like personal from your life? What can you bring to the table that no one else has really? To that point, but. Yeah, I think people get way wrapped up in labeling things and having to think about whether they're allowed to like it. It's like, this doesn't fit into what I am into. It's like, everyone in this room has a guilty pleasure band.
And it's not even guilty.
The Rain Within.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you saw how sticky your Rain Within CD was,
Seriously. Uncle will tell you how much he loves the Spice Girls.
Girl power.
And just to add, I think it's funny when people get so upset about somebody liking something or not liking something. It's as if they think that liking a piece of music is a choice you made. If the new Lady Gaga song comes out, it hits my ears, and I immediately like or dislike it. There's no decision in there. I'm not like, what do I think of this? It's a reflex, and music should be a reflex, and that's part of what makes it beautiful. It should hit you, and your brain doesn't even get to choose. It's just a feeling.
There's only good music and bad music.
Yes, that's what I meant.
I'll just sum up everything we said.
Thank you.
not really true, Patrick. Because what might be bad for you is not necessarily bad for the
No. I didn't mean
You
to.
sold that for different strokes. Might be right for you, but not be right for some. We got different strokes to take.
Different
strokes today. Different strokes today. Different.
Yeah, you got to the end before.
This is what Goth is.
I didn't mean that to sound general. It's specific to every person. Like what you like. To you, there's good and bad music. You guys can like whatever bands you want. You know? No.
You.
And here we are.
All right. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
John, do you
Rent, is the rent over? Are you done yet? Welcome to the
moderator.
fucking Patrick show.
Guys, get ready.
You stop. I'm taking my fucking blanket. I'm going to my room.
To cry. Milky white tears. Yeah. Wait, is this thing on again? No, can you turn it off?
All right, I think it's on
I
now.
didn't actually want you to speak.
Yeah, it does.
I think the answer for me is the answer, I guess, like any big goth would say, like Robert Smith or Susie or Andrew Eldridge, I'm not goth. I think that's the best answer to give. Because by saying I'm not goth, you're basically saying you're goth. So, there you go. So, hey, guess
So
what?
I win?
Yeah. So I guess the next question I was going to ask was off of that. So I guess the question I have written down, and I wrote this really quickly, is, you want to read that? Yeah, you got it.
Yes.
With the ever-changing music and fashions, do you still recognize the goths of today as when you first discovered the scene? What are some of the differences, if any?
These are like term paper questions.
This is my first panel.
I've already forgotten that. The answer is no. And next question.
42. The answer to every question is 42. All right, so I guess
I'm just gonna wait till you guys are done.
All right, so I'm sorry. So you know what? No, I'm not sorry. They should be sorry. All right. So the question is, I mean, from when you started out in the scene, I mean, what are the differences you see when you started then to now? I mean, what if you walk into a club, you know, like what would be the first thing? Like, hey, what's different? iPhones.
Yeah.
iPhones.
I feel like with the whole synthwave and synth pop and witch house and all of that, we have a lot more. We're like right now we're like in a futurism cycle, which we saw in the 90s too. For me coming up, like I was I was definitely, I'm from California, so I was definitely in the punk scene too, pretty heavily. But I was the person in the black jeans and the black hoodie and sneakers, and that still carries on. But differences, I feel like we kind of have our things we kind of have it locked in, but it's in cycles now. So we're in this like futurism kind of a thing. And although Witch House is in the grand scheme of things, a relatively new genre, I don't think it necessarily, the imagery is necessarily new, because it's just very ghoulish, very feminine, ghostly, whatever I was saying. What was I talking about? Something spooky. I got that bit. It's pretty much been the same. I mean, if I go out and I see a quiet kid dressed in dark colors, and I'm like, okay, that kid's probably a goth, and I go up to him and talk to him, and they're into Rob Zombie or who's the I'm trying to think of who people are listening to right now. Yeah, but I mean like the introduction bands, you know what I mean? Because like even now, like the ones that are like the go-to stereotypes are so far and beyond. They're evolved as musicians. Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, all those guys, like those aren't the new people that like the kids are being brought in by. I can't think of who that would be. I think hip hop does have a lot of influence. Like dark trap stuff that gets people in the witch house, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to spot a goth. I feel like in the goth scene particularly, there's this like connection to all things spooky, and you just see that in other people. I mean, the first time I walk in a room and someone makes a really inappropriate dark joke, I'm like, all right, that's gonna be my friend right there. That's why I'm on a panel with all of these lovely people here.
That's Sean's nickname, inappropriate dark joke. But then again, we like killing jokes, so that goes with what we do. So what was the question again?
Oh, let's go back to it. Wait, shit, where is it? Oh, that's right. With the ever-changing music and fashions, do you still recognize the goths of today as when you first discovered the scene? What are some of the differences, if any? I thought George Chicago.
Yeah, that was good.
Bela Lugosi would be very proud of me right now. You know he's dead.
I'm dead.
He's dead. Actually, Peter Murphy, I'm told, won't say undead anymore. He just says dead, dead, dead. It's against his religion.
Not alive.
I don't know. He lives in Turkey, so.
Fun facts.
That's not the question.
No. Just really, you didn't
It was really long.
It wasn't that long.
Between when you got
Attention
in.
span of a net.
How's the scene changed?
Yeah. I mean, walking in that music scene for a while.
Music has always changed.
No,
Music
but
has always
it's
changed.
not just really music. It's about the club atmosphere. You're a DJ, you're a promoter.
The club atmosphere? Okay, when we were going to clubs, and you can attest to this, did you not see ska kids, rock kids, alternative kids, all in the same room?
No.
No? You wouldn't listen to the Smiths, and then maybe Fishbone, and Christian Death all in the same party?
What's a Christian Death?
It's the opposite of Christian life. I don't know. I feel that now, if anything, people are still listening to what they listen to, but they are segregating themselves so much that now we have a lot of nights that are smaller but more specific.
Makes sense.
Right?
I'll allow it.
I will give it to you guys for doing pure goth nights with Stimulate.
Oh, you haven't been to my goth night. You have no idea like how unpure my goth night
Okay.
is.
I played Ministry at her club, alright?
You were probably the most legitimate goth DJ, being
I'm
a
sorry.
goth DJ that I've
I'm
had
really
at my
not
club.
legitimate at all. Just ask my mother. I'm really illegitimate.
You have the mailman's eyes.
Is the milkman.
Milk, the dead milkman.
I actually, at Stimulate, I consider what we do an open format. So depending on who we book, is probably going to be the style of the night. So if one time we have Grendel, we're probably going to be more of an industrial night that night. Well, I'm not going to plug April 6th in New York City at Stimulate, located at 85. But I will say that the clubs that are consistent, like you can go to a Red Party, which is every second Saturday, and you know that you're going to enjoy the music. That's the one thing that my bone of contention with anyone who attends a club night. Go because you just enjoy it. Not because you know you're going to hear a specific band or a specific song. Just go in there, and the best compliment, I said it before, is, what is this? I don't know what this is. When Sean plays a track, and I don't know what it is, and especially from another DJ, if I had to ask you what it is, that's awesome.
I used to honestly hate doing that. I used to hate going to clubs and being a DJ and going to clubs and having another DJ play something really good. And I felt ashamed that I didn't know that song.
That's the elitism bullshit though.
It's very hard. It's very hard if you're a good DJ because you're always exposed to music and you're looking for music.
Right.
If someone plays something you don't know, that's like, wow. Because I'm a sponge. I love a lot of different types of music. If you're going to find something, like I think you gave me a link once, and it was all YouTube clips, and the goth bands were from all over the world. It was a zine that, I wish I could remember the name of it. And they post once a year all the different links, and it was great because not only could you hear the band, you could see it because it was all video links. And maybe some of these bands will never even get here. If you're lucky enough to get to go to Europe and go to Mariluna or Wave Gothic Treffen, you'll get to see them, but here at least I got to hear it, you know. I don't know where people get music from, and this might be another question you have. You know, I know people might digitize their CDs or get stuff from Amazon or iTunes, but do you ever check out that link at the bottom, people who like this might also like,
Love it, yeah.
check out those other bands, because that could be a ring within that you don't know about, or a long lost. There are a lot of bands I found out about. You know, when we book bands, sometimes they come with an opening band. Check out that opening band too.
We have Connect Zymonks actually a couple
They're
of
opening?
nights. Yeah.
But imagine when they were an opener. If somebody said, I'm not going to see them, I just want to see the headliner, you might never have been turned on to that band.
Well, it's like Joy Division when they opened for The Cure. Like, that happened.
What's The Cure?
Like, that happened. Joy Division opened for The Cure. Like, if you had if you hadn't by the way, being a club owner, show up and check out the opening band, because you never know when you're going to miss that Joy Division.
You paid for it.
Yeah.
You might as well go check them out.
Have you seen my guest list? A lot of people haven't. Chris.
Yeah, but you turned me on to music, so I do feel. You just turned.
I think everyone's turned on this metal right now.
So, actually, what was the question?
Well, I think also with the bands, though, too, is that it's really important, especially with the new bands, and I go on rants all the time about this, too, is that the older bands, the classic bands, are fantastic, and that's the reason why I love the music so much, but there's so many right now, more than any other time, there's such a huge resurgence in what is being called goth. There's so many great bands out right now, and I really try to push a lot of the new bands. And one of my things I just really don't like is a lot of times people will expect the same rotation of music all the time, the same bands. And you'll try to introduce a lot of new bands, it's like pulling teeth sometimes to get on the dance floor.
Can you play Depeche Mode for me?
I will fucking kill you. But it's like that, though, because as a DJ, you want to pack the dance floor, and you really want people to enjoy themselves, but I think also at the same time as a DJ, you have to, one of your responsibilities is to play all the new bands, or at least the ones that you like, and to push it, because that's how you push the scene forward, is by playing these bands. Like a lot of times I'll book some bands, I might have heard like one track or two before I even booked them, and I'll book them, and I'm like, holy crap, we had a great band from Rhode Island come driving called Way Out, and they were freaking great.
They were awesome.
They were just awesome. It was really fun. So it's really important that too is with the new music to really promote it as much as you promote the older stuff too. Get really into it, and really support the bands by buying the merch, and not just stealing the music, Chris, and really just supporting the scene that way.
Shots fired.
I was given it by these two wonderful artists. They also, by the way, the bands do support the DJs and there's vice versa, because when they give us a CD, we put it in rotation and we play it, and vice versa. Hopefully people will come up and that'll be one of those songs. Hey, what was that song? Well, that was this, So you have to, it's a union among all of us with our audience. So if you hear something and you like it, don't be afraid to come up to the DJ and ask. Right in the middle of when they're queuing between the two songs.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. 5 seconds.
All right, so where's that card? That card's stuck. Damn.
Oh, wait, they didn't even get to answer any of that.
Wait, who?
Do you guys have any questions?
Oh, God, really? No.
The next one, I honestly feel like they
got a lot of time.
I feel like you guys really covered it.
Hold on.
Oh, God, no, I started paddling. I'm in trouble now.
Ditto.
Yeah, I feel like you guys killed that one.
Next question. You got a big pile there. Next question.
That's true, yeah.
Thanks,
Just checking out your pile there.
Start over there.
All right, I'm going to start over here now. Fine. God, you guys are pushy. All right, so here's the question I wrote. All right, so it seems to me that goth is very much a do-it-yourself kind of culture, meaning there is no financial or commercial assistance whatsoever. No. So why do you think it still exists today, considering there really isn't any support for this scene at all? There's no popular onus, something happening, It just is.
It would be, it seemed like that more like music in general. I mean that could happen to a lot of artists. It's hard to have, I don't know. I mean, you mean just goth in general specifically?
Well, look, that's what the topic is on. We're not talking about hip hop. That's
okay. No need to lash out. I gotta think. I usually wait for everyone else to answer. I think.
Ditto.
Well, I definitely think sometimes it can hurt you to put your band in a genre. Like when you tell someone, we're a goth band, then they
Your
think
album's about Halloween.
I understand, but still, before someone's listening, if
You
I'm
covered
writing to
Sisters
somebody
of
to book
Mercy,
our,
your goth band.
if I'm writing to somebody to
Where
book
it's at.
our band, it's very important to describe your band in there. So you say it's, gothic rock, goth punk, whatever, like dark rock. They see those overtones, and I know so many times someone just sees that, so that we don't do those kind of bands.
Yeah.
We don't do those kind of bands. We don't do those nights. Oh, you might want to talk to so-and-so down the street who books that one night every 7 months, or something like that. But, I mean, they're going to know it anyway if they take the time to listen to the music. I sit there hoping that they say, I hope they go to the channel, look at a video, listen to a song, and just say, oh, you know what, we don't normally do this, but I could see people liking this band. But, I know they got 1,000 emails or every day from bands, so they just go through looking at, hopefully, they're looking at the genre, and they go with that. And it's a judgmental thing. I try not to hate on it, I just move on.
But what do you think sustains the scene in itself? I mean, what do you think that keeps it moving? What keeps it
The
going?
people who really love it, like the people who it does mean, the people who love it are also in the positions to book the bands, like people like you, who would book bands within the genre. You know what I mean? But like people who are more interested in running their clubs as a business, they might look over past a band like mine just because they want to find stuff that's more popular.
I had that option.
You did, but you didn't do it.
What did you?
I think the question almost answers itself. The fact that the scene doesn't have a lot of outside financial backing and is still thriving the way it is says everything about how much passion there is for the scene, how much passion there is for the music, and independent artists like myself, I will find a way. I will never stop doing this. And when the record industry crashed after Napster for a little while, I was no longer getting $20,000 to go in the studio from my label. And so I was like, well, what do I do? Well, luckily, life moves in a way to where those gaps get filled in naturally sometimes. Kickstarter showed up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now there's another way, so let me try that. It worked, and I was like, well, we've got, whatever it is, $10,000. Do I go hand that to a studio engineer? Or do I sit my ass down and learn how to do it, buy everything I need to record an album? So I learned that, and it's like, oh, I gotta do an album cover. Do I, the label's not gonna pay for an artist. Do I drum up $1,000 to pay somebody to do it, or do I sit my ass down in front of Photoshop and figure out how to do it? And that's what we do now. Like most of the people I know, you stop outsourcing as much as possible until there are areas where it's important to you to do it. Like I hate booking. I have friends that book tours. I hate it. So a guy gets 15% of my tours, and I'm happy to pay him. And there have been times with art, photography, music videos where I'm like, I need someone from the outside, but we do it because of passion, and we find a way to do it ourselves, or we find a way to make the money. Like Patreon has become artist heaven as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I think it's all these awesome people supporting it.
You can find people too who are also trying to support themselves. It feels good like when you get like a photographer to take your pictures.
Yeah.
You're trying to support
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, absolutely.
It feels like you're paying back for,
Big time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you?
Oh, am I still here? Yeah, give me a mic. I'll say something. Sorry.
The enthusiasm.
I apologize.
Is fantastic. You need the
I
question?
apologize in advance. Yeah, let me look at it real quick. Seems to me yeah. Actually, this is kind of, I answer this question a lot because people ask that about Goth Night. Our tagline, let's see if I can remember it. Goth Night celebrating, when I say 50 years, and I'll explain why here in a minute, but gothic rock, post-punk, industrial, electro-pop, and alternative music. And the reason that we do that, the reason that Goth Night is called Goth Night is because I wanted it very clear what we were doing. Even if people didn't understand what goth was, they're like, okay, this is a goth club. And then they walk in and it's Doors and they're hearing the Doors. And they're like, wait a minute, this is not. And the reason that I did that is because there's an entire
there's an entire world outside of the Gothic rock label that if we did not have those influencers, we would not have Gothic rock and we would not have the goth scene. And I'm in a very small town, and so I wanted to bring in those people and especially those kids, because any scene, the kids are the lifeblood. Like, if you don't have young people listening to your music or coming to your club, you ain't got much. And I wanted to be able to bring them in, show them, oh no, what you're listening to is a part of this, but also, let me show you some new stuff. And so I think there's always that need for whatever it is that we are all living our lives obsessed with in this goth label. Like, there's always a need for it. Throughout history, you'll always, whether the music was there or not, go back hundreds of years, like, you'll find spooky people. There are always spooky people, and those spooky people need a place to go, and they need a community, because generally speaking, they're shunned. And even now, they're shunned, and they're just avoided by general society. It's like, oh, you guys are weird, go over here. Well, where are we going to go over here? Why don't you go to a basement and go see me at Goth Night every Tuesday, Charlottesville, Virginia. But yeah, no. And so, I was really into, community building and really having that happen. And so that's what I try to carry on with Goth Night. When we have the door, we ask for $10, but we do pay what you can. If you're short that week, if you had to pay rent or whatever, or if you just don't have the cash, I'm not going to turn you away because you don't have the money. Come in, be with good people, hang out. I don't know what your week was like. You might really need to be here. And so having that community, that communal bond, it was one of those things. Imagine yourself walking down the street. Bright sunny day, you see someone in black walking this way. What are you going to do? You're going to smile at them and be like, oh my God, it's one of my people. It's awesome. Even if you don't talk to them, you're going to recognize them. That bond is what carries this on. Whether it ebbs and flows, whoever's a promoter in the position to have, big venues or really get the scene going in a certain area or certain region or not, that is always there. That never dies out. So, anyways, did that answer?
That was
yeah.
really
All right.
lovely.
All right. There we go. All ages. I've had 7-year-olds. I've had 73-year-olds. All ages. Yeah.
How many 73-year-olds?
Probably 5. I don't know. I wasn't keeping track. I wasn't dinging people before.
I definitely agree with the creating a community. Everybody needs to help support that community, replenish it with younger people too.
Yeah.
I have this conversation with Ashley all the time. It's funny, we're seeing a lot of, everyone used to do an 80s party. Now we're going to start seeing 90s parties. But, like we had the question earlier, what introduces you to it? Well, you better figure that out, because if your party just continues to get older and those people get married and have children, you see less people, and you haven't replenished, you don't have a community. So you have to support these new bands. What if when Sisters of Mercy came out, no one was playing it because, what is this new band? I never heard of them. So you have to, there's a responsibility, like we said earlier. And it still exists today because it's goddamn good.
Yay! You're gonna have to pick a winner here.
Oh wow! All right, so wow.
I know question.
I can't. It's actually it's after 6 o'clock already. It's just went by. You're we went through nothing here. We went through nothing. There's no way. I think if you guys want, if you want to do a Q&A, if you guys want to ask questions, like any of us, just them. Please just ask questions. So I'm going to put this down now, and you can ask questions.
Ready to go right here. You go, come on, give it to me.
So you're a DJ, you're a DJ, you're a DJ.
That's what they keep telling me.
Now, obviously, your hair is always like that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how about you?
My hair.
Chris.
Oh.
Always.
I tied behind my head and work.
If you drove a truck for a living instead of a DJ when you were still in Goth, but you can't, I can't go to work like this.
Why not?
Okay, because I'd get thrown out. we have to wear our uniform. Except on Halloween, then I dress it.
Every day is Halloween.
But, I mean, like, do you leave your hair like that 24/7, or do you have what you would call normal for society and then dress up? Or is that you, or is that a persona? Who are you?
I am always blue. This is not a wig or dread falls. I do tie it behind my head. I forgot I posted a picture recently, and I had it behind, I don't know, is it like a book signing or a gallery? You're like, oh my God, you cut your hair off. I'm like, tie it behind my head. Thank God I work in the music industry. I'm a recording engineer, and I can have blue hair. But if anyone does have a day job, don't be embarrassed. I have a friend of mine who has bright green hair. She's a school teacher. She wears a black wig to work. So she did a flip.
Well, they
So
wouldn't
she-
let her wear her green hair. I had a purple
She
beard.
teaches small kids, and you want to not be distracting when you're working.
But you want to bring them into the lifestyle. Start them young.
A little early.
Initiate them.
But you can be
You always
yourself.
find a way. You love it, so you find a way.
Hey, what you do after 3 p.m. when the bell rings?
I think Andy summed that up really well. It's like you love it, you find a way. Like I've built my life where I don't have to not dress how I want to, but there were times when that happened. And hey, they have corporate goth now, which is a thing you can Instagram. But you love it. You find a way. You take out your piercings, you hide your hair, you buy the shitty Walmart clothes for your job. And then once you get out of there, you do what you want to do.
I worked for Viacom for 15 years as an editor, so I worked at MTV, VH1. So I always had a day job, Mohawk raised. My wife, Mandana, who is really the queen of the scene right here in New York City, she's a lawyer. I know doctors, I know architects. So I know that there's no hindrance, I don't think, between day and night. Like you said, you find a way, to adapt for a little while, and then go back to your real self, which is this. This is our real selves. We have 3 minutes. All right. So
Next
next
quick
question.
answers, quick questions, quick answers.
Yes, next.
Nobody? That's not a question, ma'am.
Dear Facebook, do you have
yeah,
any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, Facebook Live. Throw some questions. We've got a couple of minutes.
It's 51 people watching.
What do you?
Yes.
50 now. I guess it's 51.
Hey, can we get a big flood of hearts, Facebook? We just want to see all the love. Hearts. Heart flood.
It takes a second.
More hearts.
They don't like us enough.
Hello, Edwin, John.
Now middle fingers.
That is beautiful. What?
Like I know, what's her name? Chelsea has a goth program on the internet.
Cool.
And you guys are DJs at clubs.
Yeah.
But when satellite radio used to have channels for psychobilly, and they got rid of it. Is there a goth? Or
Yes.
Yeah,
I want to jump on this because I want to give back props to this guy. DJ Count, the Belfry Network, Cemetery Confessions. If you want to know about goth, you need to go to Cemetery Confessions. They are on that. The people that they have writing for them is incredible. They have a podcast regularly. They may have been on it at some point. But they also have people like William Faith and DJ Scary Lady Sarah out of Chicago. I mean, they have the best people. So if you want it, it's not satellite, it's online. You can listen to it on your phone. Just look it up, Cemetery Confessions. You guys go to the Belfry. I think it's belfry.rip. That's the web address. Go there, you will find, they are like they're the ones doing it right now.
14.
We have like 0 minutes.
1 minute.
Maybe we should just like plug our stuff where they can find it and then cut out.
Yeah, you want to go first? Whatever. You're
Um,
playing tonight.
I'm playing tonight at 9:15 with Christian Carver on drums, which is where you really You should say the name of your band. You should say the name of your band. It's Bellamorte.
Oh, it's Bellamorte.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should know that. Come on.
The Christian Carver Project. Christian Carver and the Bellamortes.
My band, The Long Lost, is doing an acoustic set tonight in the Fusion Bar. It's a 2-hour open bar. I think you have to pay an additional amount for it, but we're going to be playing there right after this, somewhere between 7 and 9.
Nice.
Plugs, I guess?
Yeah, I'm not playing. I am helping with Goth yoga tomorrow, Valerie Abbey. I will be the lovely hungover Goth model for the yoga. You can find my former project Guild the Morn anywhere on the internet, Guild the Morn. You can find me every Tuesday at Goth Night in Charlottesville, Virginia, 8 to midnight, all ages, pay what you can.
And in a onesie tonight, right?
And in a onesie tonight, that's right.
So you better start drinking now so you can be properly hungover.
I've been
for the yoga.
drinking this entire panel.
All right, guys, we have flyers for everything else too. If you want to find any of us.
Oh, shit. I'll be DJing
Red
tonight.
Lights, Temp
I'll play goth music.
We'll be DJing also at all the parties that continue
No,
tonight.
we did it because of this guy over here.
Okay, women's ball and everything. Thank you for listening to what we had to say. Appreciate it.
What was it?
I like the fact that it's, you know, you guys couldn't look more different.
If any-